this, and then I'm going to do that. Go ahead, Lisa.
Good evening. Please be aware that the first hour and a half of this meeting will be recorded so that we can put it onto our website and podcast and our YouTube channel. We record in audio only. Feel free to use the podcast on our website along with your big book as a resource if you missed the study portion of the meeting. The study portion is also listed on the website so you can follow along. Tonight's, we don't have a recap. I will be reading the blue page. We're starting a new chapter. And our study tonight will start on page 30 and end on page 31. Are there any announcements tonight?
I don't have any.
Hi, family. My name's Jamie. Very grateful, recovered alcoholic. Lisa, if your phone is still on, turn the even though you have your audio disconnected, turn the volume down. Still getting feedback. Just turn your speaker volume down. That's all I got for you tonight. Thanks.
And good evening, everyone. I'm a recovered alcoholic, and my name is Trish. Welcome to the Lppbbsg Primary Purpose Big Book Study Group. To prepare for our Big Book study, let's get focused by having a 3-minute moment of meditation, followed by our family's foglight prayer.
And I'm a recovered alcoholic, and my name is Lisa. Thanks for joining us tonight. We're going to start the meditation in a minute, so please take a moment to get situated.
Please be aware of background noises when you are unmuted and sharing so as not to distract yourself or others. Stop it. We suggest we observe all proper Zoom etiquette. If you wouldn't do it in a live meeting, please don't do it here. And a friendly reminder, absence of profanity offends no one. Please keep yourself muted during someone else's share, and we will call on you in the order that hands are raised.
From the foreword to the first edition of Alcoholics Anonymous. We of Alcoholics Anonymous are many thousands of men and women who have recovered from a seemingly hopeless state of mind and body. To show other alcoholics precisely how we have recovered is the main purpose of this book and of this group.
For the meditation, some suggestions are focus on your breath and posture, breathe in God, and breathe out self.
Take this time to reconnect with God. Let the craziness of the day drift away and ask God to help you focus on the study.
And let's bring in those cute little monks.
And come on back. And let's have our secretary's report.
Oh,
Come on in, Jim.
Fog light prayer first,
you.
please.
Thank you so much.
Let's,
Oh,
hold
go
on.
ahead.
Let's join me in our family's fog light prayer, please. God, let your love shine through us like a fog light, so that those who are lost, sick, and dying can find your love through us. Amen. Come on in, Jim.
Okay, ladies, thank you so very much. Hi, everybody. My name is Jim F. I'm your recovered alcoholic secretary. And tonight I have asked Terry to read the recovered statement. We read this notice to explain why many people in this group identify as recovered rather than recovering, and what it exactly means to be a recovered alcoholic. Take it away, Terry.
AKA pickle chips. Recovered. We are not cured of alcoholism. Recovered but not cured, that presents a conflict to some alcoholics. If we were cured, we would be able to drink responsibly. No, we are not cured. The allergic reaction to alcohol will remain with us for a lifetime. But we have been restored to sanity. That was the problem. The main problem of the alcoholic centers in his mind rather than in his body. That's from page 23 of the Big Book. We are now sane where alcohol is concerned. Consequently, we have recovered.
Fantastic. Thank you for joining us tonight. We meet every Tuesday starting at 5:30 p.m. Central with the Gerbil Fellowship Cage, where we chatter for an hour before starting of the meeting. Feel free to bring side dishes to share with the buzzards. Our Big Book study starts promptly at 6:30 p.m. Central Time, and we ask that you be courteous and ready to begin at the sound of the foghorn. We take our Big Book study seriously. Because of this, chat will be disabled during the study. In the 1940s, when the only elements to sobriety were God, a Big Book, and one recovered alcoholic working with an untreated alcoholic, the success rate was as follows. From the foreword to the second edition of Alcoholics Anonymous, page XX, of alcoholics who came to AA and really tried, 50% got sober at once and remained that way. 25% sobered up after some relapse. And the remainder, those who stayed on with AA, showed improvement. Can we have a show of hands of people joining us for the first time? Welcome, Louis.
Hi, Louis.
Welcome.
Hi, Terry. Hi, Dina. Thanks for coming, everybody.
Welcome.
Alrighty. And then the recovered alcoholics. These are your potential sponsors. Is anyone celebrating a milestone this week? All right. If you should require a Big Book of your own, we have large print editions available that can be sent to you by buzzard mail. Delivery time is questionable. Please remember to practice our seventh tradition by donating to the group address, Venmo, or PayPal posted in chat. Our suggestion is to purchase a Big Book and take an untreated alcoholic through the program of recovery. Please visit our website posted in chat. Thank you, and we'll see you next week.
Thank you, Jim. And from chapter 2, there is a solution. The tremendous fact for every one of us is that we have discovered a common solution. We have a way out on which we can absolutely agree and upon which we can join in brotherly and harmonious action. This is the great news this book covers to those who suffer from alcoholism.
This is an open meeting, and as such, all who have an interest in alcoholism and our program of recovery are welcome. Because this is an open meeting, you need not identify yourself, nor your reason for being here, if you don't wish to do so. Your anonymity will be protected. We ask that you protect ours.
While this is an open meeting, membership in this group is limited to those who wish to recover from alcoholism and have a desire to stop drinking for good and all. Each member of Alcoholics Anonymous is a potential sponsor of a new member and should clearly recognize the obligations and duties of such a responsibility.
Before we begin our study of the Big Book, last week we reviewed Tradition 7. Tonight, let's take a quick look at Tradition 8. Please refer to page 562 of Alcoholics Anonymous. Come on in, Shayna.
Hello, can everybody hear me okay? Yay, okay. Dana, recovered alcoholic. I am your traditionalist this week. So the AA's Tradition 8. This states, Alcoholics Anonymous should remain forever non-professional, but our service centers may employ special workers. So when I first read this tradition, I thought, okay, we don't hire professionals, but we do. So, like a lot of things in AA, the deeper message is in the balance. So Tradition 8 tells us that AA will never have a professional class of paid alcoholics helping other alcoholics. Our founders discovered early on that the spiritual magic of one alcoholic helping another only when it's done freely, with no strings attached. The 12 and 12 reminds us of the old line, freely ye have received, freely give. And AA learned this the hard way, of course. Every time someone tried to get paid for 12-step work, it backfired. Alcoholics just don't respond the same when someone is talking to them for a paycheck. The money gets in the way of the message, and suddenly the person trying to help loses something essential: humility, honesty, and sometimes credibility. Bill writes that almost no alcoholic has ever been brought to recovery by the world's best experts, whether that be religious or medical. What works is one drunk talking to another, honestly and without motive. That's why 12-step work can't be sold. You can't put a price tag on carrying the message, because the moment that you do, it stops being the message. But here's where the confusion came in. When AA grew, things needed doing. Phones needed answered, letters mailed, books printed, and suddenly some of the members were shouting, they're making money from AA, even though these jobs weren't 12-step work at all. The 12 and 12 talks about how heated things got when AA members were working in homes, hospitals, and educating the public about alcoholism. Some people said that if they used their AA experience in their job, they must be, quote-unquote, professionals, violating the tradition. But over time, AA learned to draw a very clear line. 12-step work, carrying the AA message, must stay free. But service work, like staffing offices, managing books, or managing books, is not the same thing, and AA can pay people to handle those practical responsibilities. If someone is answering phones at intergroup or keeping the books or printing literature, they're not selling AA, they're helping AA function. And if someone works as a nurse on an alcohol ward or runs a rehab or teaches addiction education, that doesn't make them necessarily a professional AA member. It just means they're people with experience using the experience in the world. The tradition is basically reminding us not to be ruled by fear. Paying workers for practical services doesn't threaten AA's spiritual foundation. What would threaten the foundation is mixing money with the heart of what we do, one alcoholic helping another. For me personally, Tradition 8 works by keeping me grounded. For me personally, Tradition 8 keeps me grounded in the reason that AA works. No one helped me because they were getting paid. They helped me because they cared and because someone helped them. That's the spirit we're protecting here. So Tradition 8 isn't saying money is bad. It's saying that our message is sacred and it stays powerful because it's shared freely. One alcoholic to another, out of love, not profit. And that's all I got.
Thank you, Shayna. Wonderful job. And now it's time for our weekly installment of That Ain't in the Book. We hear a lot of stuff said in meetings that can't be reconciled with the program as it's described in the Big Book of Alcoholics Anonymous. One of the things we often hear is, play the tape all the way through. Larry, can you come on in and tell us what it says about that on page 24 in paragraph 3?
Yes, I'm Larry. I'm an alcoholic. It says, the almost certain consequences that follow taking even a glass of beer do not crowd into the mind to deter us. If these thoughts occur, they are hazy and readily supplanted with the old threadbare ideal that this time we shall handle ourselves like other people. There is a complete failure of the kind of defense that keeps one from putting his hand on a hot stove.
Thank you, Larry. As we study, please make use of the pens, highlighters, and rulers so that you can share this experience with another alcoholic.
In order for us to stay focused as we study the Big Book, we use the Big Book Study Guide prepared by Joe and Charlie and Krusty Cliff of the Dallas Primary Purpose Group.
Tonight we will start a new chapter. We will screen share and read the blue page, which will tell us some history on the chapter. Then the study will begin on page 30 at the beginning of More About Alcoholism and end on page 31, Drink Like Other People.
After the pages are read, we will ask questions from the imaginary podium, starting back at our study portion, which will be read tonight by Nancy. The studies will be one sentence unless otherwise specified, and multi-part questions are simply a one-sentence answer split up by commas, semicolons, hyphens, and other fun bits of punctuation.
Basically, in English, what that means is that we're going to read the material once through, then dissect the information a second time through the question and answer format. Notice how the language in the questions gives us a new light in which to consider the study material.
This is important because hearing the question and rereading the content offers a definite way of comprehending the material covered. After we've completed the study, we open up for comments, questions, and observations based on what was just read. If you have spiritual experiences with this information, you are free to share. Please keep your share on topic and under 5 minutes. And at the 5-minute mark, you may hear a timer beep to let you know that your time is finished and to please wrap up your thoughts so we can move on to the next person.
However, Big Book study is not therapy. Should you begin sharing on topics which are more appropriately discussed in a different setting, like with your sponsor, please do not be offended when we cut that conversation short and send the buzzards nipping at your heels. For that purpose, we have fellowship meetings before and after our study time.
You can never go wrong by commenting on the pages studied, which brings us to the words of one of the co-founders of Alcoholics Anonymous. Sobriety, freedom from alcohol, through the teaching and practice of the 12 steps, is the sole purpose of any Alcoholics Anonymous group.
And how we arrived at this point. This meeting started in person in Jamie's house in 2020. And when COVID hit, it went to Zoom and remained that way. This is a 96-week Big Book study. We are in a 5th year of being a group in our 4th season going through the book. We study with the question and answer format, starting at the title page through page 164. We read through the preface, forewords, doctor's opinion, and Bill's story. which gives us history and how we developed, the doctor's opinion about a threefold disease, spiritual malady, obsession, analogy. And we read Bill's story, which is a classic 12-step call, and Dr. Bob's nightmare, we also read. We spend 4 weeks on the traditions, and we read the spiritual experience 4 times. 3 times in our readings when the asterisks refer to it. And our final week, our 96th week of the study, we close out the season with the spiritual experience, because that's how important it is. And that's it.
Thank you, Lisa. Before we start the blue page, we will need 5 or 6 virtual hands raised if you would like to be one of our answer readers. And again, please be aware that the first hour and a half of this meeting will be recorded so that we can put it onto our website and onto our YouTube channel. So Lisa, come on in and read us our blue page.
Okay. Hey, everyone. Once again, I'm Lisa. I'm an alcoholic. More about alcoholism. Page 30 through 43. As we study chapter 3, more about alcoholism, we will indeed learn more about alcoholism. We will learn why it is so vital that we clearly understand the exact nature of the disease, and that we know in our hearts that we are victims of a condition of mind, body, and spirit that will destroy us. This chapter includes 4 stories. 3 of them are real and 1 is fictitious. These stories demonstrate 4 more truths about this killer disease that alcoholism is. 1, a permanent condition. 2, a progressive disease. 3, a very patient disease, the insidious insanity. And 4, without spiritual help, it is a fatal disease. As we absorb the information and knowledge of this chapter, we will begin to recognize that we are not dealing with such ideas as denial and or acceptance. We will begin to understand why it is absolutely necessary that we surrender unconditionally to the truth. We will know without any reservation that we are alcoholics of the hopeless variety. We are chronic alcoholics. On pages 37 and 38, the first 100 clearly state how we may know if we have an alcoholic mind. The mind which deprives us of the ability to manage a decision to never take another drink, even after we have firmly made that vital decision. The mind that produces the insidious insanity that causes us to drink against our own will. Beginning with the last paragraph on page 42, Fred tells us what this program proved to be for him. It gives us good reason to try the program and see if it will do for us what it did for him. We paid a tremendous price to get here. Let's be willing to do what they did to stay here.
Thank you, Lisa. And Nancy, come on in with our study for the night.
Nancy Alcoholic. Chapter 3, more about alcoholism. Most of us have been unwilling to admit we were real alcoholics. No person likes to think he is bodily and mentally different from his fellows. Therefore, it is not surprising that our drinking career have been characterized by countless vain attempts to prove we could drink like other people. The idea that somehow, someday, he will control and enjoy his drinking is the great obsession of every abnormal drinker. The persistence of this illusion is astonishing. Many pursue it into the gates of insanity or death. We learned that we had to fully concede to our innermost selves that we were alcoholics. This is the first step in recovery. The delusion that we are like other people, or presently may be, has to be smashed. We alcoholics are men and women who have lost the ability to control our drinking. We know that our no real alcoholic ever recovers control. All of us felt at times that we were regaining control, but such intervals, usually brief, were inevitably followed by still less control, which led in time to pitiful and incomprehensible demoralization. We are convinced to a man that alcoholics of our time are in the grip of progressive illness. Over any considerable period, we get worse, never better. We are like men who have lost their legs. They never grow new ones. Neither does there appear to be any kind of treatment which will make alcoholics of our kind like other men. We have tried every imaginable remedy. In some instances, there has been brief recovery, followed always by a still worse relapse. Physicians who are familiar with alcoholism agree there is no such thing as making a normal drinker out of an alcoholic. Science may one day accomplish this, but it hasn't done so yet. Despite all he can say, many who are real alcoholics are not going to believe they are in that class. By every form of self-deception and experimentation, they will try to prove themselves exception to the rule, therefore non-alcoholic. If anyone who is showing inability to control his drinking can do the right about phrase and drink like a gentleman, our hats are off to him. Heaven knows we have tried hard enough and long enough to drink like other people. Thank you.
Thank you, Nancy. And for those who are new with us tonight, we're now going to go back to the beginning of page 30 where Nancy just read. We have the script or the questions written by Joe and Charlie and Krusty Cliff. I will read the questions. Those with their hands up will read the answers, and those answers will be line by line the portion that Nancy just read. So grab your book if you don't already have it and follow along with us. And your batting order tonight will be Sonia, Sheila, Linda, Nancy, and William. So everyone please unmute. And Sonia, or the five of you please unmute. And Sonia, the first question is coming to you. What are most alcoholics unwilling to admit?
Most of us have been unwilling to admit we were real alcoholics.
Thank you. And Sheila, what would nobody like to think?
Nobody likes to think he is bodily and mentally different from his fellows.
Thank you so much. And Linda, what do our drinking careers demonstrate?
Therefore, it is not surprising that our drinking careers have been characterized by countless vain attempts to prove we could drink like other people.
Thank you. And Nancy, what is the great obsession of every alcoholic?
The idea that somehow, someday, he will control and enjoy his drinking is the great obsession of every normal drinker.
Thank you. And William, what is astonishing in the life of an alcoholic?
The persistence of disillusion is absolutely stunning. Many pursue into the gates of insanity of death.
Thank you.
Oh, I'm sorry.
And Sheila, back to you. Sonia, back to you. What did we learn that is absolutely necessary for success in sobriety?
Sorry. Sorry.
We learned that we had to fully concede to our innermost selves that we were alcoholics.
Absolutely. And now, Sheila, why is this so important?
This is the first step in recovery.
And Lisa will be coming in with a couple of comments, and here's the first one.
Until the problem is completely understood, the solution will be out of reach.
So true. And Linda, like the obsession and illusion, what must happen to the delusion?
The delusion that we were like other people, or presently maybe, has to be smashed.
So true. And Nancy, one more time, what is the alcoholic's problem?
We alcoholics are men and women who have lost the ability to control our drinking.
We sure have. And William, what do we know?
We know that no real alcoholic ever recovers control.
Thank you. And Sonia, back to you with a two-part question. A, what have all of us believed on occasion? And B, where did this lead us?
All of us felt at times that we were gaining control, but such intervals, usually brief, were inevitably followed by still less control, which led in time to pitiful and incomprehensible demoralization.
And another comment. Is hitting a bottom a combination of spiritual, emotional, and physical events? Is it a bankruptcy in every area of my life? When am I ready to put the shovel down? Each individual must find their own bottom sufficient enough to lead to recovery from alcoholism.
Thank you, Lisa. And Sheila, of what are we convinced?
We are convinced to a man that alcoholics of our type are in the grip of a progressive illness.
Thank you. Linda, will it get better?
Over any considerable period, we get worse, never better.
So true. And Nancy, a two-part question. Who are we compared to and why?
Can you skip me?
Yes. William, I'll read you the question again, a two-part question. A, who are we compared to and why?
We're like men who have lost their legs. They never grow new ones.
Thank
So
you.
sorry.
And Sonia, what treatment will let us become like other people where drinking is concerned?
Neither does there appear to be any kind of treatment which will make alcoholics of our kind like other men.
Thank you. And Sheila, how many remedies have we tried?
We have tried every imaginable remedy.
Absolutely. Linda, a two-part question again. A, have some of us found what we believe to be recovery? And B, what always followed this newfound hope?
In some instances, there has been brief recovery, followed always by still worse relapse.
So true. And Nancy, on what do knowledgeable physicians agree?
Physicians who are familiar with alcoholism agree there is no such thing as making a normal drinker out of an alcoholic.
Thank you. And William, has science been able to come up with some pills that will fix us?
Science may one day accomplish this, but it has not done it yet. Not for me.
And another comment. While science has developed many medications which can assist with the cravings, there has never been a medication developed to solve the allergy problem in the alcoholic. The allergy will be with us for a lifetime.
So true. And Sonia, back to you. Despite all we can say, what is not going to happen?
Despite all we can say, many who are real alcoholics are not going to believe they are in that class.
Thank you. And Sheila, what do we try to prove and how do we try and prove it?
By every form of self-deception and experimentation, they will try to prove themselves exceptions to the rule. Therefore, non-alcoholic.
Absolutely. And Linda, what will we do to the alcoholic who learns how to drink responsibly?
If anyone who is showing inability to control his drinking can do the right about face and drink like a gentleman. Is that it?
That's a comma. Go on to the period.
Okay, I didn't see. All right. Our hats are off to them.
Thank you. And Nancy, our last question for tonight, what does heaven know?
Heaven knows we have tried hard enough and long enough to drink like other people.
So true. And thank you for everyone who helped with the questions. You can remute and put your hands down. And if you have experience with the portion of the book that we just read, please feel free to share. And please be mindful of your time and that others may have their hands raised and are also waiting to share. And a friendly reminder, absence of profanity offends no one. And we're now open for comment, questions, observations, and spiritual experiences based on what we just read. And Nancy, is your hand up to come on in?
Nancy Alcoholic. Oh my gosh, this is all of me right here in this everything that we read, and for the longest time I was unwilling to admit that I was an alcoholic, even when I went to jail and I had to go to some program in AA, but there's part of me that was always saying, you know what, I'm managing my life. What's the big deal if I drink a little too much? Sometimes not, and but through the program, I found a way. I mean, I was able to, after relapses and all that, I come to realize that when I started working the steps, is I do have a problem, and until I admitted to my innermost self that I was an alcoholic, nothing was working. But when I did that, the steps started working. My life started changing. And thank God that I get to read this over and over because I don't ever want to forget where I came from. Thank you.
Thank you, Nancy.
Thank you, Nancy.
Hi, Linda. Come on in.
My name is Linda. I'm still an alcoholic. Will always be an alcoholic. I have on top of this where it says more about alcoholism. This is the relapse chapter. And the reason why I said that is because it just talks about the alcoholic, in here, the delusion, it talks about us trying to control, and it's an illusion, when you think that you can control it. We can't, and I found that out the hard way. It talks about the denial, and it talks about the test. If you know how to do controlled drinking, go ahead and take one drink, put it down, and that's it. And no alcoholic can do that, so no alcoholic will pass that test. But this right here, it is the relapse chapter because it talks about how we drank, and like it said, it never gets better, it gets worse. And my disease, as they talk about the progression, it progressed. It didn't get any better. There was no happy stories at the end. If a person drinks and they come back and they say nothing happened, something happened. They're just not telling you, but something happened. What happened is they relapse. And if nothing happened to them, well, then they're going to go back and they're going to drink again. And they're going to keep drinking until something really tragic does happen. And that's the alcoholic's mind. This is centered in my mind. It's not in my body. My body does react. But in my mind, my disease talks to me in my own voice. It told me for so many years I didn't have a problem. It told me I could handle it. It told me it wouldn't hurt me. And people that die of cirrhosis of the liver and this and that, that's because they didn't know how to drink right. That's insane thinking. That is absolutely insane thinking. And when I came first to AA, I was like, well, I'm just going to clean myself up, learn how to drink like a lady, and then I'm going to go back out and leave, because this program is going to teach me how to drink right. It really is. It's going to show me how to drink right, and what I was thinking, I said it in a meeting and people started to laugh at me. They cracked up laughing, mostly the women, and I didn't get it. I just thought that they were laughing at me. They were being mean. No, they were laughing at me, but they were laughing at the insanity of what came out my mouth. But as I kept coming, something just, I sat in a meeting and something just dropped from my throat to my stomach. And it said, you're never going to be able to drink safely again. You didn't come in here to clean up, to get your ribs out of hock, to learn how to drink like a lady. You can't. You cannot. You're not one of those quote unquote normal people that can drink and put it down. That's not you. If you start drinking, you're just getting the ball rolling with the first one. And it saddened me, and I felt kind of a little depressed for the rest of the day, but it was good because it was an epiphany. And it it hit me like a bolt of lightning. That's not you. The gig is up. You can't drink safely. And if you keep drinking, you're going to be that person that dies of cirrhosis of the liver. You're going to be that person that maybe falls on a train track because you were so drunk. You're going to be that person that's going to lose their kids and never see them again. You're going to be that person. All of it just kept hitting me. And I was like, I got scared. And I said, I need to stay in here. I need to stay in here so I can learn how to live, and not be, like they say, alcoholism is a rapacious creditor, so I won't be tortured, by this disease. I won't be suffering by this disease. I have to learn how. Thank you.
Thank you, Linda. Hi, Larry. Come on in.
Yeah, I'm Larry. I'm an alcoholic. I by the time 1997 came along, I was still in spree drinking, but it was getting worse. But I was just about, it was I was beginning to, drinking wasn't enough, and I was beginning to enhance it with other things. And but in 1997, my dad died with cirrhosis of the liver, and that should have given me some indication that this disease, what it was going to do. But I I thought, that was him and this is me, and that was never going to be me. Even though it was, because my progression, I kept progressing just like my dad progressed, and it became worse and worse. And by 2004, I was an everyday drinker, and I began to progress greater and greater, and the amounts became greater, and the tendencies became greater. And not only the drinking, but everything else in my life began to fall apart. And I began to do, and the consequences did not seem to deter me from drinking, even though the jail time and the prison time, even though I might have been sober during the time that I spent, as soon as I got out, the first thing I did was pick up again, and it was like I never stopped again. And that never did, it never dawned on me, it never clicked that that this disease, and when I came into Alcoholics Anonymous, I really fully thought that maybe y'all could help me control something so that I could be more of a gentleman, more of a, I could do this thing better than I was doing it, and so that I could stay with my mom, and my mom would let me stay, and I wouldn't goof up and mess up like I did in my last two marriages. And but I got here, and it wasn't that way. I got here, and I heard something. I can't tell you exactly. It was a little while, but this part of the book was one of the things I heard. I heard about the progressive disease, and I began, after I was sober, to put together my life and how it was progressive and how it got so much worse as time progressed, and how when I didn't drink, when I did drink, it got even worse, and it was as if I never stopped. And I put that together by the grace of God. And when I finally did, by the time that all came together, I came to the conclusion that I could not drink like other people, and I would never again be able to drink. And this chapter convinced me that I did not want to be that person anymore. And I'm thankful for this chapter. I don't know. I didn't intend to be sober all the rest of my life, but this is one of the chapters that convinced me that it was either not drink or die. And I'm thankful for it. That's all I got.
Thanks, Larry. Glad you're here tonight. Hi, Terry.
Good evening. I'm Terry, recovered alcoholic, pickle chips. I love this chapter, at least the forward part, the first part, because out here in California, most meetings read this at the beginning of the meeting, so I actually know it by heart. So I've heard it so many times. And, I still stop and listen because this is important stuff. The first highlight I have here is that the idea that somehow, someday, he will control and enjoy his drinking. And I was a controlled drinker for 16 years. Raging alcoholic, and then I had kids, and I wanted to be a good mom. Didn't happen, but I tried. But the controlled drinking part, I would have 2 or 3 beers every single day. I could not skip a day, but I was so miserable. I was not able to control and enjoy my drinking. I was a rageaholic, temper tantrum, crappy mom, and not a very good employee either. But that's how it is. I'm not putting myself down. It's just how it was with me trying to control my drinking. The last year or so, I couldn't control it anymore, and things got out of hand, and I ended up here. But the other part I underline is that it's a progressive illness. I did not know what that meant exactly until I kept going to meetings and seeing people leave and come back. Some came back and told us how horrible it was out there and how they went right back to where they left off in their drinking. And that was very important for me to know, because when I got here was the darkest, most depressing point in my life, and I did not, that whole word progressive, no way did I want to ever go back there, and it terrified me. So relapse is not part of my story, partially because of this sentence that it's a progressive illness. And, if I could drink again and be where starting off, as a young alcoholic, fine, but I'm not going back to that place. And last but not least, okay, science may one day make a normal drinker out of an alcoholic, but hasn't done so yet. I wake up a lot in the middle of the night, in the wee hours of the morning, and occasionally see commercials for some new drug they have. Of course, it's over the counter. That is a cure for alcoholism. And it just makes me so mad. I think these guys are just prolonging the misery for these people and getting money to do it, because I think it's quite expensive. But So I should go take out my own commercial at 2 o'clock in the morning. It probably wouldn't cost me much. Okay, that is all I have. So thanks for letting me share.
Thanks, Terry. Good to see you. And welcome, Lewis. Come on in and share with us.
Hello, my name is Lewis, and I'm an alcoholic. This is my first time doing a format such as this, so I hope I do all right. But I can really relate to everything here. No person likes to admit they're an alcoholic. Well, I'm past that. I've totally admitted that. I know it, and we need to really concede fully that we're alcoholics, and we can never go back. Um, like the part about like trying to control your drinking, I'm way past that. It got worse as I went on. I would drink to blackouts all the time, and then that would progress to drinking in the morning and in the afternoons. It just got worse, and I didn't see it. I ruined the marriage over that. I should have gotten this. I've been trying to get it for over a decade, multiple rehabs and stuff, but and like the line about when we are like men who have lost their legs, they never grow new ones. That reminds me of the once you turn into a pickle, you can never go back to a cucumber. That line, and I realized that about part about treatments. I tried the naltrexone, the oral tablets. I took the monthly injection, and I still drank on top. I didn't know if I thought I was Superman or something. I could just be above that, and it didn't matter. Um, I'd say we tried everything. I thought I did. Like I said, I've been to rehab about 5 times, detoxes as well. I've gone to my doctor and been totally honest with him, and it didn't always work. But and the line about like if we think we can go back to drinking like gentlemen, well, that's a joke for me because I turn into Dr. Jekyll, Mr. Hyde once I get the alcohol in me. I become boisterous. Like right now I'm at day 122, which is a big deal for me. I can't say that for a long time, and I'm trying to like at the same time. That's all I have. I have to be humble about that. Tomorrow's another day, and I have to make it through that day. The holidays coming up, I'm a little nervous about that, but I'm just going to try to stay humble, no self-pity, and try to get through this. And I hope I did okay with discussing the stuff. Like I used to go to a Joe and Charlie meeting, where they would play the tapes of them talking, and it was very enjoyable. I really liked it. So anyway, thank you for letting me share.
Thank you, Lewis. So glad you joined us tonight. I hope we see you again. Sheila, come on in.
Sheila, alcoholic, and thanks for an amazing meeting, Trish and Jamie, as usual. Okay, so starting, just going chronological order here. Feeling different, thinking bodily and mentally different from everyone is the way I felt since the day I was born, literally, even as a 2, 3, 4-year-old in preschool, first, second, third, elementary. I always separated myself from the other kids. I just didn't feel like I had anything to contribute, and I was bullied a lot because I lived in my imagination. Causes and conditions, I won't get into those, that was reaction to my background and how I was raised. And what I had for support or lack of support, actually. But I just started getting into my own world, and led me to alcohol at a very young age, at 14. And I just started, and I just went for it till I was 62. And honestly, I never thought I could stop. And I was such an extreme alcoholic. I drank every day, got into drinking every day in high schools, getting kicked out of schools, finally made it through high school at 22, put myself into college because, you know, we're quite brilliant people. We do find ways to survive with our, you know, intelligence and our creativity, and we learn to control and manipulate things so we can get through life. And I did get through school and got a job and a career in the school system. Drinking every night after school, didn't drink during school, didn't drink before school, but would drink till 3 in the morning. So, but somehow made it to the age of 60, and then I lost my job with the system. I got called in, and I was let go after 26 years in the same school. I'll talk about pitiful and incomprehensible demoralization, and then the DUI. You know, getting handcuffed and shoved in the back of a police car, trying to flirt my way out of it with the cops, you know, and then, and you know, I mean, but that feeling of getting pushed up against the side of the car, things getting pulled out of my pockets, and I went into jail at 2 in the morning, and not prison, jail, big difference, but still demoralization. And I came out at 2 in the afternoon. I got rescued by some friends, and guess what? Straight out to the bars on the way home. And I even got my driver's license back for a hardship license. And of course, I drank and continued to drink and drive. It was insanity. That was in 2007. And yeah, progressive illness. I never got married, and I never had children because I knew I couldn't stop drinking. I knew I couldn't stop drinking in my early age, and so I could never make a commitment, and I never had children because of it, because I had worked with fetal alcohol syndrome. I was a special ed teacher, and I knew what the possibilities were. So God, and I didn't know at the time, God put amazing things into my head. And I know I had that spark and that ember in my soul. I had love and compassion for others, but I was never fully present, and I was never fully reaching any potential. So I never tried rehab. Nobody ever tried to intervene. I made it to 62. I was dying, literally physically dying, and I had been homeless for a while. I just found an efficiency in a room, in a garage, reconverted garage, and I came into the rooms in 2016. That being said, you know, there was nothing for me except a spiritual experience and in touch to make my psychic change, and something more than human power was needed to produce my essential change. And those aren't my words, by the way, but those 2 lines are in my margin here. And thank God for this program and the beautiful God and presence it's brought into my life. And you guys, thanks for letting me share.
Thank you, Sheila. So glad you're here with us tonight. Xavier, good to see you. Come on in.
Hey, good evening, Xavier Alcoholic. So glad to be here. I absolutely love this meeting. Love the format, love the people. Glad to be here. I just started working with this one new sponsee who is 12 years sober and just had a relapse. And it's always a reminder, like, the insanity. Like, we're all just one drink away. It's a disease that never goes away. And if we rest in our laurels, it's there. And the whole concept of a step 1, I always think of it as like the page 1 through 43 plus the doctor's opinion is all in step 1, if I recall. It's like step 1 won't get me sober, but it is one of the ingredients. Like, it's not the part that'll make the cake, but it's like an ingredient that's necessary. And it's kind of a prerequisite for all the other steps, for me to effectively do the other steps. So there's a little bit of, I like the big book, how, like, the more I read the big book, the more I can appreciate it. I'd say as I get older and hopefully get a little wiser. There's kind of a Socratic method that they use in law school, and that they'll, in the first 100, seem to ask a lot of questions and give a lot of examples. And there's a lot of relating, like, wow, that's definitely me. And it's nice when read especially chapters 2 and 3 and I see myself in these stories and I can relate, and how it kind of sucks me in, because once then I can relate and I can say, yeah, I am powerless, like that's totally me. Then it starts to bring me to a solution. Like, if you're this, you might want to do that. And it's really, really, I'm finding it more clever, and truly think it was divinely inspired the more I read the big book, and the more I get a chance to study it like a textbook. So I'm grateful for that. With regard to the insanity and with regard to all the examples they give, it never ceases to amaze me that if I stop, the more I stop doing work, whether it's inventory, meeting with my sponsor, which I've slacked on, the prayer, the meditation, the meetings, sponsoring others, my go-to is to be a dry drunk again. And as is noted, sometimes in these rooms, I can suffer from untreated alcoholism without having to drink. And the sad thing, or happy thing, the way that I look at it, is my default is to go back into my alcoholism and suffer from it. So it requires daily work on my end to get out of that dry drunkenness and continue to maintain that spiritual connection. And lastly, being around a lot of normies, I don't know if you guys can hear the background, it's my kids going around and my wife, it's really loud. So I'm glad you can't hear it. They're having a good time. So the last part is, my father just visited for a few days. I haven't seen him. He hasn't been in Minnesota in like 25 years, but he's normally down south. And he was like out of his element here. And it was interesting because he has his own character defects like we all did. And it's untreated character defects. And I'm so grateful to this program that out of necessity to survive, if we choose to, we first accept we're an alcoholic, like to our core, and then we're willing to do all this work, and we're eventually willing to go to these really dark places. And there's so much peace in that. There's so much solace in that. There's so much growth in that. And when I'm around quote unquote normies that have never done any of this work, the reality is, like, I think in general, humans never outgrow these things. So this is the very beginning of like an amazing journey. And the beginning necessity for me, at least, my experience, is full acceptance that I truly am an alcoholic and to really relate to these pages. And that brings this like inner willingness to go to these dark places, and to do this work that's necessary. And as a result, I get to grow as a human. I get to stay sober one day at a time, and I get to go pursue a pretty awesome life. So I'm very grateful. That's all I got. Thanks for letting me share.
Thank you, Xavier. Real good to see you tonight. Hi, Kirk.
Hi, Kirk, alcoholic. Xavier, nice to see that you're a Minnesota United fan there. Yeah, love soccer too myself. So actually went and saw one when I was in Minneapolis for treatment. So this whole ordeal, it's amazing. This whole ordeal that without this, I would never have met you guys. I would never have millions of friends that I've never met before. And it brings to a notion of what I thought at first of my deal is that what I thought at first was, as an alcoholic, it's easy to, why can't you just put it down? Why can't you just say no? And then you get into it and it's just like, wow, yeah. It is a humbling experience. What my hope, my deal is on regarding like 30 and 31 and what we've talked about and my experience. What helps me is my mind frame. My mind frame is something that I need to not like I don't do nothing where like I hope I don't drink, or I hope, like with Thanksgiving coming, Christmas coming, and I look at it that I will not be drinking, and I have to go with the mind frame of that. Luckily, I've got a few days off from work, and with my work is as working on the railroad is big time drinking. But I just look at the mind frame, and that was my biggest thing of when I'm doing this is that I'm not going to take that drink. I'm not going to, because I was a social drinker back in my days, and mine kind of decided to go more when it became more of a loneliness deal. Excuse me. And it escalated after that. But it's just I don't know. It's you go to meetings, like what I think someone said. You go to the meetings, or before it was, you see some come back, some don't, and it's just you hope that they come back. If they don't, they don't. If they do, they do. But everyone's different. But we're all the same because we're all alcoholics. But I know, like, for me, and there's so many new stuff that I've learned regarding this. Meditation. Never meditated before. I thought that was all about tree huggers. That, oh my God, it's so much more into that. It's like, it's a wisdom, and it's just an eye-opening, breathtaking that has brought me to this at this time. And I don't know where I'm going with this now, and I do apologize, but I do appreciate it, everyone you listening, and I hope every one of you has a happy and sober 24 hours. And that I will pass. Thank you.
Thank you, Kirk. Good to see you. Jamie, come on in.
Good evening, family. My name is Jamie, very grateful recovered alcoholic. My apologies. I'm going to keep my camera off tonight. I'm at home sick. In one paragraph, they tell me that I'm illusional, I'm delusional, and I'm insane. And I had to take an honest look at that. I started drinking when I was 10, and by the time I was 13, I was a daily drinker, and I was ditching school and going home and dipping into mom's vodka. It doesn't matter how or why it ran off the rails. It only matters that it did. And I love where it says that we had to concede to our innermost selves that we were alcoholic. This is the first step in recovery. I admitted I was an alcoholic for years before I came to Alcoholics Anonymous. But when I came to Alcoholics Anonymous, it's when I accepted that I was an alcoholic. And that allowed a shift to take place in me so that I could grasp onto what they're trying to tell me in this program. I've heard several times tonight that this is a chapter on relapse. Yeah, it is. It is. It tells us why. But this chapter is really only about two things: the mental obsession and untreated alcoholism. And as we're going to get into the 4 personal stories next week, or over the next few weeks, 3 of them real, 1 fictitious, we can see how the mental obsession always precedes the first drink. I didn't pick up the drink and then start thinking about it. something inside of me was so uncomfortable that I said, a drink will make it better. And I have been blessed to be around here long enough and find a relationship with this power greater than myself that I know a drink will never make anything better. In fact, there's nothing so bad in my life that a drink wouldn't make worse. I sat in meetings with my mother for the first 14 years of my sobriety, and she had 17 years more than me. And when it gets to that line, we are like men who have lost their legs, they never grow new, when I'd look over and say, ain't that right, Mom? Of course she can't, Xavier. Because my mother was an amputee as a result of walking through a sliding glass door, drunk. And it took her until she was 10 years sober to even be honest about that's what happened. If I can get honest with myself in chapter 3, it is the beginning of honesty. And I'm still in the process of the discovery process of step 1, of qualifying myself as an alcoholic. This is a great chapter. I look forward to journeying through it with everyone. I encourage as we go through the next few weeks and we look at the people and study the people, that maybe we all look for the similarities. Did I do that? Was I like that? Were those my thoughts? We always say find yourself in the big book of Alcoholics Anonymous. That's the only way I know how to do it, is to ask myself the questions, oftentimes read it in the first person. So, thank you all so much. Trish and Lisa, thanks for taking the meeting tonight. And I love you all dearly, but my happy ass is going back to bed.
Thank you, Jamie. Feel better. William, come on in.
Yes, my name is William Alcoholic. I tell you, when I was out there drinking, I was clueless about what was wrong with me, and the people I always went to help me, they told me something like this, when I had those hangovers and all that stuff, they tell me to change the color of the drink, eat before you drink, all kind of remedies, and nothing ever worked, and definitely I didn't think I was powerless over alcohol, because I didn't look at it the way we look at it today, I look at it as I went to the store and bought 2 half a gallon liquor. How could I be powerless sober? But I didn't understand when I took the cap off that bottle, the obsession kicked in, But I have to come here and listen to y'all to understand that, and I struggled. I didn't come here and surrender, man. It took me some time. And that's not a bad, Your Honor. That's my truth. That's my truth, and I came around in April of 1989. I didn't get sober to January. January 18th is my sobriety date. 1992. But I had to go through the ring, having a belly full of alcohol and a head full of AA. I began to say, oh, that's what they was talking about. That's what they talking about. And I began to put the days together, staying sober, and it was talking about many pursue this through the gates of insanity, and that illusion, and every time they read how it worked, because I was struggling with it, I self-diagnosed it myself. But what I did, I underestimate the power of this program and the power of God, and every time they say grave emotion and mental disorder, I said, oh, that's me, but I'm sober today. One day at a time, So I learned how to trust this program. And Another thing they say, scientists may one day create a synthetic pill for alcoholism, and they talked about that the in the blue card that the blue page they read, he was talking about you could help with the obsession, could help with the obsession, you know. But I remember going to my doctor. You know, I've been going to the same doctor almost 40 years. You know, and you know, I got a personal relationship with him. You know, I don't have to call him at no appointment. I just walk into his office and he takes me right in. So one day, as I began to age, I said, "Doctor," I went into his office. I said, "Doctor, you know, I can't hold my water. I can't hold my water anymore. I'm getting older and older. How could you help me?" And he reached up over in his little cabin up over his head like that and pulled out some pills in a bottle and told me to take this. So I trust him. You know, I've been going this guy a long time and stuff like that. So I go back out in my car and I had some time to read these side effects to that, you know. And they said something like it can make your eyes red, it can make you bleed. And the last one I said it could kill you, you know. So my being as sick as I was, I began to say he tried to get rid of me now, you know. But that's why I will not take. I love this spiritual remedy for my sobriety, you know. And the side effect for this, if I pick up a drink, most likely, you know, I go back to where I came from. You know, I don't want to go back there. You know what I mean? Or worse, you know. Because one of the things that one of the fears I had a lot of fear when I was out there drinking, you know, and some of the fears that I had that I didn't want to be homeless, you know. So my mother and father died when I was 2 years of age. I didn't have nobody that I could call and say, "Let me come and spend a night with you," you know. People would give me some food, but they wouldn't do that, you know. So I'm grateful for that, you know. So those things that kept me from continuing to do, I tried to make sure my remedy was to take care of my responsibilities, financial responsibility before I started drinking. Because I knew if I started drinking, it was nothing that illusion that would just keep me drinking and stuff like that. So thank you for having me here tonight. And the more I could read, the more I began to see myself. You know, and I'm grateful for that. Thank you.
Thank you, William. Thanks so much for being here tonight. Christine, welcome.
Hi, I'm Christine, alcoholic. Thanks for letting me hop in on your meeting. Sorry, I was watching the kids before. So just on chapter 3, I just finished this with a sponsee, and it's been, for me, this is a really great opportunity. I haven't had a sponsee in a while, and I got back with my old sponsor who has 43 years, and she is kind of crazy, but she knows the program, so even if there's some issues, we use the program to talk, and that's the language of the heart for me, and I feel like with that I have resolution to most problems in my life. I don't, did you guys read the end or the beginning? I missed part of it.
Just the very beginning, the first page and a half.
Oh, perfect, yeah. So that whole like beginning to believe that I could regain control, I went through years of thinking I could get sober on my own. So I did yoga, I did a vegetarian diet, I went to, health farms, sanitariums, whatever, all these type, yoga retreats, and I could never just be done with drinking, no matter how hard I tried. But it was just my journey. I had to go through that because I was convinced that I would find a way. I would find a method of drinking that didn't cause me pain and suffering the way alcohol had caused me prior to that period when I was a daily drinker. So I always assumed since I went from a daily drinker to a binge drinker, I was recovering on my own with my own willpower. So I'm good, thank you very much. I don't need Alcoholics Anonymous. Even though I'd already been in a treatment 5 times, I'd been in AA a few times. I mean, I had that experience, but what I did not understand, what I lacked to understand was I had actually never worked the program Alcoholics Anonymous. I had gone in and out of meetings, but I didn't have a sponsor, I didn't have a service commitment, I didn't work the steps. I tried once, but it just I was really young and I didn't catch on. So anyways, I was convinced at this point that I did have a progressive illness and it did get only worse and never better. And what I realized for me was that even if my physical drinking quantity wasn't as high as it had been in certain periods in my past, my level of insanity was extremely high either way. And that was my moment of clarity. Like, I am mentally insane with or without a drink because I have no other way to cope with living. So even when I'm not drunk, I'm just as crazy as when I am drunk because my whole mode is to get another bottle, to get more liquor. So even though I may not physically be having a drink in my hand at that moment, my behaviors were so fixated on alcoholism and my emotional, mental understanding of life was so warped that I actually was suffering all the time, even if I wasn't drunk every day. So that was something that I had to learn about myself, and that's why I surrendered to this program, because I came to realize that my mental status, even without a drink, is extremely insane, and I need recovery in all areas of my life. So for me, it was a lot easier this time to surrender because I had more information, and I personally needed to do that. I needed to do the controlled barroom drinking experiment for about 5 years before I was willing to say, I need help. So anyways, thanks for letting me share.
Thanks, Christine. Always good to see you. Lisa.
Hi, everyone. I'm Lisa. I'm an alcoholic. What a great meeting. Oh, I relate to everybody. Once again, I'm reading about myself. This whole first paragraph sums up most of my adult life. Looking for a way to drink without having any problems. Whether, it was the kind of alcohol, the time, the day, the eating, just anything. I needed to find that. That great obsession, that delusion. It's astonishing. It's insanity. How many years doing that same thing and expecting something different. I never got this part of it. I could always stop for certain periods of time, which I thought was something, but a lot of people do it. I'm not unique. But, I always had that reservation. Whether, and usually it was a holiday season was big with me. Any holiday, first snow, beach, sunrise, sunset, it didn't matter. But I just never got that I could not control it. Once I put that booze up to my mouth, I couldn't stop. I lost that control. And even like a year of being dry, I picked up and I felt the same way. It was doing, like you hear, doing push-ups, just waiting. And like I think, and a lot of people were saying, and I know if I get away from this work and this book and meetings and don't maintain my spiritual health, I know where this is going to take me. It might not be today, tomorrow, next week, but it's coming. And, I don't want that today. I find myself in this book always now. Today I made my stuffings for Thanksgiving. And this is the second year. I didn't have a bottle of wine next to me doing it, or a bottle of vodka, whatever. And it feels good. I didn't even think of it today. I thought about the meeting tonight. I'm calling Trish. And, I'm forever grateful. You know, I'm not, you know, like this, thinking about the holidays. You know, just today. And I'm so grateful. And because I was never like that. I was thinking about Christmas and Thanksgiving, you know, the end of summer. Because that was my reservation. I think I knew I was just going to. But my excuse. But yeah, I'm just forever grateful, and I don't want to stop doing these things. It's much easier to do this work than to feel the way I used to feel. So I'm going to continue, and I hope everybody has a nice holiday, and thanks for coming.
Thanks, Lisa. I'm Trish, and I'm an alcoholic, and I'm going to jump in real quick. I also did not want to admit, well, I could admit that I was an alcoholic, but I could not accept that I was an alcoholic. And there's a big difference. And I truly believe that I was controlling my drinking from day one. And I lived with that delusion that one day I would be able to drink like other people. And that I would, well, not so much that I wouldn't be able to control my drinking, because I thought I was controlling my drinking. But what I wasn't controlling was life, because I was referring to the bottle rather than how am I going to learn how to live. And then that line about physicians who are familiar with alcoholism agree there's no such thing as making a normal drinker out of an alcoholic. Science may one day accomplish this, but it hasn't done so yet. When I came in, the genetics of alcoholism was a really hot topic. And I wasted so much time focusing not on my alcoholism and how to recover, but instead focusing on, well, if it's genetic, how come nobody else in my family is? And scouring through my family tree, trying to find one other person so that I could feel like maybe I could fit in. And what it boiled down to was it wasn't trying to blame genetics, why do I have this and nobody else does? But it was one more way of not fitting in. And then once I stopped focusing on that and started getting into the program, started getting into the steps with a sponsor who got me into the steps a little bit, not nearly the way I'm diving into them now. And then all of a sudden they started popping up in the family tree. They're over here, they're over there, but, you know, that wasn't my concern anymore. But once I got the focus off of, I got to control this, and I got to control my life. You know, I was the queen of self-help books. And not too long ago, I was going through my books, and they all went out. I don't need them. I just need this big blue book, because this is going to be able to help me with any problem I have. Maybe not a broken arm, not a broken leg, because something like that I need to go back to some other professional, to the physicians who are trained to heal that. But anything, any problems I have that are rooted in that spiritual malady, I'm going to find the solution for in this book. But, you know, the control, I felt like I was controlling it. And then when I stopped drinking, I felt like I had to control life around me. I had to control it. I had to know what was going on, and I couldn't let go of that control. So it took me so hard to finally get into these steps, to finally find myself in this book. And what the result was, I didn't have any control. God had that control, and you know, my mom's favorite line, we plan, God laughs. And I'm sure God found a lot of my plans and a lot of what I thought it was controlling rather humorous. But at the same time, even before I built that relationship with God, that even at this point in the book we haven't done yet, that's when I finally started realizing I don't have to sit and control everything so tightly. I don't have to understand the why. I don't have to understand why I'm an alcoholic. All I have to do is know that I am an alcoholic, and the solution for that is in this book. And like it said at the end of the blue page, as right before we started reading, was, we paid a tremendous price to be here. Let's be willing to do what they did to stay here. And if I didn't find that willingness, I know I wouldn't have stayed. So thank God I found that willingness, and thank God I found people like are in this room who want to dive headfirst into this book and learn about what's in it, and to help me to find me in this book so that I don't have to go back and start controlling the world again. And with that, I'm gonna stop. And thanks everybody for a great meeting. I'm so glad we had so many new folks. And Lisa, do you want to read out our closing?
Absolutely. From page 164. Our book is meant to be suggestive only. We realize we know only a little. God will constantly disclose more to you and to us. Ask him in your morning meditation what you can do each day for the man who is still sick. The answers will come if your own house is in order, but obviously you cannot transmit something you haven't got. See to it that your relationship with him is right, and great events will come to pass for you and countless others. This is the great fact for us. Abandon yourself to God as you understand God. Admit your faults to him and to your fellows. Clear away the wreckage of your past. Give freely of what you find and join us. We shall be with you in the fellowship of the Spirit, and you will surely meet some of us as you trudge the road of happy destiny. May God bless you and keep you until then. Let's close with a moment of silence for the alcoholic who still suffers. Here's your moment.
And what we do here in this meeting, for those who are new, since we can't gather around the table and hold hands around the table, we hold our hands up in the screen, and that's a way that we can connect and pray with each other. So feel free to join us with that if you'd like to. Carry
Our
on,
Father,
Lisa. Our Father,
who
who
art
art
in
in heaven,
heaven, thy will be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done
Done
on
on
earth
earth
as it is in
in
heaven.
this day our daily
This
bread.
day,
Daily
daily
bread.
bread.
Forgive us our
Forgive us our
Forgive us our
trespasses,
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 as we forgive
as
as we
we
those who
forgive
forgive
those
those
who
trespass
who
against
trespass
trespass
us.
against us.
against
And
us.
lead us
You
not
lead us
into
And
not
lead
into
us not
temptation,
into
temptation.
but
temptation,
deliver us
Deliver
from
us from
evil.
us
evil.
from evil.
For
For
thine
thine
is
is
the
the
For thine is the
kingdom,
kingdom,
the
kingdom,
power,
the
and the
power,
and the
glory
and the
glory
forever
glory
and
forever and
ever.
forever and
ever.
ever.
Amen.
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 Thanks, everybody.
Thank
Great
you. Have a happy
meeting.
Thanksgiving.
Happy Thanksgiving,
Yes,
Linda.
happy
I'm cooking
Thanksgiving.
already.
Happy.
I'm cooking already.
Hey,
Thanks for
good,
coming,
good
Joe.
to
Good to
see
Thanks
see
you,
for
you.
I'm
coming,
cooking
Brian.
Lewis.
already. Today,
Lewis,
tomorrow.
What you
Joe,
telling
good to
us?
see you.
What,
Good to have you.
what you telling
Thank
us?
you.
We don't have to cook. Just come over to your house.
Yeah,
We're
drop
all
the
coming,
house in
Linda.
right there. Please, no. Then I have to
You
buy another
handling
turkey.
it.
Joe
All
and
right.
Lois, it
That
was
was a great
great to
meeting.
have
I
you with
enjoyed
us.
it.
Thank
Yeah,
you.
good
Yes,
to
a
have
great
you,
meeting.
Lewis.
Everybody.
Joe, it's
Happy
good to have
Thanksgiving.
you.
Good holiday. Sober holiday.
everyone.